And I know you haven't heard much or very often, and I'm getting over something that's cold or flu, and it's hurting my lungs right now. And I'm not coughing or anything. It's just trying to get there. And I'm glad that I've had my immunizations and I'm up to date on all of those and my boosters. And I've been tested for COVID, and I didn't get it, and neither did my bunkie. But some people around us got it, and or I know of 3 people who um, got it, and I know at least I can't say because it's medical, and I don't want to disclose someone else's medical file. And I know that it's a huge concern where we are right now, and we're all coming into the flu season, and the colds are coming, and the winds are going to kick up, and we're all concerned. So I know this kind of a lockdown, and I know that I know that gates are open, but I know that precautions are being taken, and I think that's exquisitely expected. Exquisite. We're just going to go with that, aren't we? We are. So, I know to buckle down and be careful. And I don't get too close to anybody. I don't date or I don't violate the personal space of other people. So I should be okay unless it's intentional. Someone intentionally gives it, things happen. Someone gives you something that's infected and you don't realize it. You have to be careful. Um, I want to put something out there, and it's a common um, belief that mega problems or super issues are handled uh, quickly, and they're not always. Um, there's a issue right now with that's not publicized. I just know because I have inside rights and I have inside rights, and that means I have outside rights also, which means I can disclose certain things, and I can tell you that the problem that we're having right now with my people is that they're not being righted, and that means their rights to certain things that they've been promised are being blockaded. And I'm going to tell you that now's the time to complain, because there's avenues that you need to consider that I can't talk about right now, but you know what? The Department of Defense will, if you're mine. And you go talk to them, and they have a list of who's mine and who isn't. And they know because I reported for a long time to Interpol, and all of that's been made available, and all of it's been declassified, and all of it's been clarified. And we know that my people are ready to go do what they've been prepping to do for a long time, and that's to assist our defense um, for this territory and for global defense. And that's their job. And they're here to alleviate a lot of issues that our police can't handle because their authority isn't, I'm going to say their authority is lacking in the venue. Because when you're dealing with groups that are connected to the court of another country, that is a military engagement and decision that has to be made. And that means they have to go to war with the entire country. And in this case, they'd have to go to war with the UK. And I say, because they're a radical group with the intent outside of United Nations standard and guidelines, which means that the UK cannot violate citizens' rights or civilian groups with their authority or venue, violating outside of violations are stepping outside of the guidelines and the regulations and policies and the declarations that are set in place by United Nations. And when the country stands by the radical group over the allyship, there's an issue. When they sweep it under the rug and shuffle some money over to the side, that oftentimes is acceptable. But then it gets shoved over to Interpol, and then it gets shoved over to Special Forces because the country may not be sanctioned by the court, International Court of Justice, but the radical group is then investigated by the authorities. And that's what we did. Ring, 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 ring. I'm ringing my bell. So what I'm trying to say is that the local police here are going to say, this has something to do with United Nations, has something to do with something, and I can't handle it. I have to kick it upwards. It gets kicked up to the Senate, and it gets kicked up somewhere, and then they vote over it, and they say, well, this one looks like it's, do we want, they try to make an international foreign relations decision on an invasion of a radical group violating people from another country, and they don't think that that's an issue, and it is. It's an issue with me and those of us who are part of the Peace Coalition and those of us who are part of global defense. Because now you're causing a rip in our politics established between international trade and tourism between USA and Mexico. And you're not even either. You may have been born here, but your pledge is in another country. Because your primary military serves another. That's how we know. Is when you militarize primarily for another. Like I'm here to represent global defense. And that means I have to say, well, I'm here for you and for the indigenous here in the United States or America. And I have to pledge to the indigenous because that is a founding block of the League of Nations, that declaration to civil rights. And I have to say, wait a second, I have to stand and say, Biden, you're doing this wrong. Or Trump, you're doing this wrong. And I have to say this isn't a lobbying thing, this is a disciplinary thing. I have to sanction you for doing this. And they haven't done anything, but others have. And I have to discipline you because I'm here for that. And the Queen can't cover you because my representation is broader spread. And that's because I come from many different faiths and many different bloodlines. And it's there because it's intended to be. And that means my representation is where I am because my mother and father were here, and my father happened to be a primary, and my mother's pretty big, and that means I'm obligated, but I'm also there in spirit and in heart, and I never have been lacking in spirit and heart. But I had to go and pull in a group of allies from United Nations to say, I don't know exactly what's going on yet, and we're investigating, but I'm pulling them over here for my rights so that I can survive. And then I'm going to shove them right up there for the rights of the governors and the presidents so that they can help fight these radical groups. And now you have an allyship of Arabia and China, that stuff that we didn't have before, and Russia, stuff that we didn't have before. And because you have different levels of allyship, you have friendly allyships, you have international exchange allyships, you have international trade allyships, you have language acceptance allyships, and that means when you bring in their language as a primary, like with Mexico, we brought them in as a primary language arts exchange. And that means we teach it to our primary children, and that's because we have good heart and intent with that country. And when I was down there, I said, well, wait a second, something's going on here that I don't like. And I can see it violated left and right. And that's the NAFTA exchange. And I see good people being pulled out, and I see good people being violated, and I see anger, and I see foreign relations devastatingly affected. And I said, this has got to stop also before I leave. And we did a lot of work. And guess what? It's corrected. And it's respected. And it's celebrated by the kids. And I think it's wonderful. And so I'm here, and I've got a group of men that are my network, right? They aren't. They are just my friends, or whatever you want to call them, but they weren't lovers. Maybe somebody from the past has joined, and that's their own because they have efforts by way of military in a group or a league on their own, getting paid now because somebody owes me a lot of money, and somebody said something lovingly online, says, are you investing? And I said, absolutely, I'm using a debt to income ratio. And that has many, many different meanings, and it does. It means someone owes me money and they're going to pay you. And that means slate's wiped clean, right? Slate's been covered. And that means it's been washed. And that means somebody's got money coming in from another venue. And that means it's sanctions being paid, right? It isn't. It means my people get the benefit, and my people don't get in trouble because it's going through not a special interest group. It's going through the military and up on high, and it's Justice Department, what I want to say. And so it's a non-issue, and we're going to right some wrongs, and we're going to make sure that nobody gets hurt from this, and we're going to make sure that those guys are all leagued together, and I don't have to direct, but I might, because they want to know if I'm investing, and they want me to be able to direct missions from time to time, And that's what I do so well, is direct missions. And I'm going to say, listen, Elon, it's at the Department of Defense. I've already done this stuff. So pass it on to your people. Sorry, we're not going to say that anymore. He's one of my favorites, isn't he? He has been for like 3 or 4 years now, and he knows because I've been passing notes to him, and someone said, Elon wants to know, Elon wants this, Elon does this, Elon, and I'm like, okay, I better pay attention to Elon because someone thinks he's wonderful, and I did. I said, well, here, slip him some intel, see what he can do with. I can't even remember what I gave him, but it was my only scrap of paper, right? It wasn't. Had a ton of them. So here, do something with this. Let's see if you can do it. I can't remember what it was. And I'm bad about that. I'm an Intel broker, and I don't ever use it. There's tons of fucking money in that. I don't ever use it. I come up with concepts and things for the military, for NASA, and for commercial industry. And I'm brilliant at it because I'm a boring bitch. I don't do anything but sit home and think. I know. It's scary, really, really, really scary. I'm like Cinderella from hell. In my RV, I used to have this thing. It's Snow White. It said Snow White. It said, this is Snow White, whatever. And then it said, and these are my 7 married dwarfs. And it had like, who did I have on there? I had Frank, Shorty, Frankie, Martine, and Junior. It's funny. In my world, it's funny. Because those were the guys that were there. It was like Frank, Shorty, Frankie Bonjo, Martine, and then Junior. So anyway, yeah, I'm like some princess from hell. Well, gotta be valuable, right? I know. So yes, I'm gonna be involved, but not. I gotta do my own thing. The plan's already been written, guys, and those who've been working with me for a long time, like, fuck who then? They know where to work, right? They know where to hunt, hold information. People like Hamden are pissed off at me right now. Says, sorry, baby, you can't be there because someone's jealous. I know I look horrible right now. Just get over it. um, for those of you who can't be there because people get jealous, go complain because I can't say my phone's not working. It's working right now. But just go audit my file. Say, hey, we're good. What's going on over there? You know how to do this. You've been doing it for a long time. I taught you very well. Get in there, right? Kinda. I better go because I'm feeling very informal right now. And that means the F word's going to fly right at my... I gotta go. Ciao.